G'day and welcome to Aussie Vision. I'm Dale and we are back for another week in the middle of the busiest time of national finals. Even as a fan, you're going to realise just how much is going on at the moment. We just had 8 national finals on the weekend, some decided, some in the semi-final stage. We have 8 coming up this weekend, and I think it was 2 weeks back that we actually had 7 as well. So that's been 23 national finals to go through. So of course at different stages with the whole thing, but still, wow, lots and lots and lots of stuff going on. And I really wanted to give a shout out to the Aussie Vision team because I think people don't realise how much work actually goes into each one of these national finals. The way we do it at Aussie Vision is that for each national final, we have a lead. There's a person who kind of looks after it all, coordinates everything, and they may have a support person or two. But that covers everything from the artist announcements, the song announcements, the rankings that we do, working out what time it actually happens in Australia and letting the community know. We live tweet a lot of them. We do a review video. We do a preview video actually as well. We do the results themselves, and then also now they jump on the podcast too. So there's a lot going on for each one. Everyone's volunteering their time, and they're just doing the most amazing job. And of course, they're just brilliant. And so it's been really good to have them on the podcast this year. Now, speaking of, we have a lot of national finals to get through today. We will be talking about Finland, Ireland, Malta, Ukraine, and Latvia, the ones that were decided on the weekend. So, without further ado, let's crack on with it. Well, the most anticipated national final of the week was that of Finland. UMK has become a huge fan favourite over the last few years. To take us through all things UMK, we have the wonderful Kyle from the Aussie Vision team. Welcome to the podcast, Kyle.
G'day, Dale. Good to be with you. Good to be talking my favourite national final. I really love Finland because being the metalhead that I am, they love sending the heavy stuff. This year, not so much heavy, but a pretty good winner anyway, nonetheless.
Well, before we get into the winner, let me ask you a little bit about the show itself because they really seemed to up the production. There was that massive arena. It looked really good. What did you think about the show overall?
Oh, it was fantastically slick, as always. I think ever since, obviously, Karia's breakout performance in 2023, it's really given UMK an extra edge. And, they did it in the arena last year, same venue this time. And, again, the production values were just bang on point. I wouldn't say that any of the 6 finalists really had a short stick or didn't get enough fireworks compared to the other. The format of UMK, I think, really works. In fact, that they have 6 or 7 really polished performers. People know about them quite a lot beforehand because they release, one song a day and give them all a spotlight. And as a result of that, they're up in the Spotify charts and it's really building the scene for something really great. They definitely do not skimp on the stage setup and making UMK what it is, and I think that's a real testament to them and a testament to why it has become one of the most impressive and most followed national finals of the season.
Indeed. And out of that bunch of songs, we're going to talk about the winner now. We'll have a little listen to it. It was Erika Vickman with Ik Kommer. Well, she was the fan favourite, she was the odds favourite, and she kind of won quite comfortably in the end with a big public score. Kyle, was this the right and deserving winner?
It definitely was the right and deserving winner in the end, Dale. I mean, as you said before, odds favourite, fan favourite, backstory with, coming so close in 2020 and just missing out. Especially when Puppy got disqualified. I think that was really going to be they were One Morning Left were probably going to be the only real contender to really challenge Erica for that public vote. And once they withdrew, like really, it was hers to lose, and she didn't lose it at all. It wasn't the landslide I think a lot of us were thinking, but still a very, very convincing win. When the votes were coming in, we thought, oh, could Goldilocks maybe have a chance here, would have been very ironic given that we didn't even get to hear her sing on the night with her losing her voice. How has that ever happened before? We have someone who doesn't even sing in a national final and they get picked for Eurovision?
I don't think we've had it where they've been picked. It certainly does happen from time to time, or that they pull out, but not to win. I'm very glad she didn't, for multiple reasons. Mainly because also I love the performance. I think when I first heard the song, I was a little bit worried. I love Erica Vickman, and maybe I had very high kind of expectations. And I think it just sounded a little bit overproduced. It was all a bit full on. And I always kind of felt like, hey, I need to see the live of this. And she didn't disappoint. It was all about her and that microphone stand, the small one and the big one. And she just sold it. And when she was like stomping down that stage into the camera, that was the moment. And then up on that big giant microphone was just superb. I was actually quite happy just to see her perform it on her own. A few people said, hey, some dances would have been good, but I actually just liked it was all about the Erica show.
Yeah, absolutely. And you going back to the staging of what you said there, like she kept it very, like she didn't overproduce the whole stage setup. It was very simple. You see her straddling and rocking the mic at the start, stomping down the catwalk and completely owning that. And you could tell she was a woman on a mission. And then, you had the very smart camera angles that cut to the We Love Erica signs in the crowd. And all of a sudden, bam, she's on a giant microphone and you got fireworks coming out the end. And look, yeah, she really, really nailed that whole package. And look, I would say it's nearly ready to go, really cut and paste for Eurovision. I just think that this was very much a performance tailored to the UMK audience. The audience knows who Erica is. And, you have those big words coming up with the Ish Comer and then Erica right at the back. I think that might have to be changed a little bit, because whilst it is great and on trend with what she's doing and the kind of performance, it is all about her. But what they've got to realise is, while Finland knows all about Erica and some big Eurofans know all about Erica, the viewing public may not know the big story or behind her as much. So there would be, I'd say, a couple of tweaks to be made to make it a bit more general and maybe less personal. But apart from that, I think it's pretty much ready to go for Finland over there. And yeah, she'll be in with a red hot shot of doing well.
Yeah, they're pretty good at like just adapting what they've got and making it right for the Eurovision stage and for the audience. I totally agree. I think it'd be interesting to see what else. Maybe another element. Look, I was kind of a fan not having dancers or anyone else there, but I'm not sure if how I feel about other people there. Potentially, maybe, but I feel it does need another element just to bring it to life a little bit more for the bigger stage. And they'll do that. We saw that with Cardio as well. They really went to town with his performance, but kept a lot of the same formula that worked. And I'd like to see that. Keep the formula, keep the giant microphone at the end, I think would be great.
Oh, that's definitely got to stay.
And just a couple of maybe other little elements in the lead up, I would say. But I think it's like 80% there already.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair as well. And look, like you said before, I don't think she really needs dancers. If so, if she wants to vamp up the message of it all, then maybe get a few cheeky dancers in there or a few other cheeky things on the screen. But she still has to remember she is, anyone from 5 to 95 could be watching Eurovision. And while it takes... and that for me, again, was another reason why I wasn't completely sold on it at the start, because I thought this is a little bit too much. It is a little bit soft porny. And sure, that is part of Erica's character. But, I think she delivered it in a way that, you could not be over-analysing that performance and think, oh, geez, what's she on about here? She's looking, yeah.
It was a lot calmer than the music video, so I think that a lot calmer, which is I think was the right thing to do. Now, look, we'll touch on Goldilocks as well because I'm sure we're going to talk about Erica a lot in the coming months. Now, Goldilocks, I thought, won the jury. It got a very good public vote as well. So still, I mean, lost comfortably, but was, not shamed in coming second place there. I thought the staging of this was just superb. It was so inventive. I loved it. And I loved the kind of song. I love that little bass line with it. It was so, so good. But I always thought it wasn't really maybe a competition song and it needed the staging to kind of make it a little bit more palatable, I think. What do you think of it?
Likewise, it was hard on the night because we're obviously just been told, okay, she's not singing live, going to hear the pre-recorded vocals. You think, this kind of takes it down a bit and be a bit hard for her to, we know that she's there, but she's effectively doing a huge mind job. But staging-wise, yeah, the three rings worked really, really well. I think she came in sync with her backup dancers really, really well. And there were some points where you think, is that her? Or was that, oh no, that's the dancer to making that stretch or that move. If anything, I would have thought if she wanted to maybe get a bit more appeal, she could have maybe used the catwalk a little bit more, kind of like what Nelly Matula did, and also I think a bit when, Costi, for example, was right at the start when he's on top of his huge pyramid and goes back to the stage and then back into the tower again. She could have maybe done that a little bit more, but overall it was very simple and not I wouldn't say overly simple, but very slick staging without being too over the top and too crazy with, bells and whistles flying off everywhere. So, and I think that really met the narrative of the song as well. It wasn't edgy kind of bass kind of song. It wasn't an in-your-face kind of a number. And as a result, she didn't really give that much in-your-face staging. So she definitely married that concept really well.
Yeah, it was kind of simple but effective, and it worked, and it got her a good result. But I know what you mean as well. Some can kind of go for that almost like video effect, where you do want to see that live stage. You want to connect that as a big live performance, particularly with what was going on as well there with her situation. Now, look, the rest of them all did very good. We probably won't get them to here. The one I probably will just sort of mention is I did find Nightmares quite disappointing. I think a lot of people was kind of loving that going in, and I thought maybe it was probably the weakest performance of the night. And it came sort of second last in the end, but they're all still very good. Like someone coming last in Finland is probably like coming second or third in Lithuania.
Absolutely, yeah. And you touched on Nightmares. I mean, yeah, that was unfortunately the big letdown. I mean, because I saw this as, the contender to Erica pretty much.
Look, I think that'll wrap it up for Finland. We could talk about it all day long because it really is such a great national final. I could go through every single song. Love the English commentary. There's so much to love about the whole thing, but we'll have to leave it there, Kyle, for another day. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I guess we'll probably speak to you at some point soon.
Thanks a lot, Dale. Have a good one.
Well, to take us all through Ukraine, I have the wonderful Liv with me. Now, we haven't had you on the podcast for a while, Liv. We've missed you.
Yeah, I know. It's been a bit of a sad one not coming on the pod, but happy to be back.
And I guess you've got to let some other people take a go there. And I tell you what, the listeners have been calling out for you to be co-host. They were loving you on there. There were comments galore. So, we'll have to be careful. You'll be taking my job soon.
Oh, no, I don't know about that, Dale. It's hard to top you, that's for sure.
Oh, dear. I'll leave that one alone. All right. Well, let's talk about Ukraine itself. Now, look, Vidbir is always high production quality. I just always am amazed by their stage. Was it the same again this year?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's hard to believe that, this is a country that's actively at war at the moment, and they have like the highest production quality we've seen this season so far, and so much creativity. They had an English commentator that was taking us through the YouTube broadcast, which is just so great, making it accessible for Eurovision fans. So absolutely sublime staging quality. I will say personally, I think the song quality was perhaps slightly lacking from previous years, but they're a victim of their own success, right? Because they're always really strong. So even if there's a little tiny drop, people notice it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like, I loved it all. I thought the songs were really good without any kind of major kind of standouts overall. But we did end up having a winner, and it was Zifferblatt with a Bird of Prey. All right, well, this came second in the jury, but won the public vote. Your thoughts on this winning, Liv? Do you think it was a deserved winner?
Yeah, I mean, this was winning sort of the streaming battle going into the contest, so it wasn't too surprising. They had a interesting concept. It was this little garden thing, and they're all in this retro kind of outfits with this sort of Beatlesque kind of song. I think it's pleasant, you know? The song is about being separated from a loved one, and, you know, we can relate to that and the yearning and all that kind of thing, but geez, yeah, the diction, the intonation, and then the whole vibe. I don't know about this, Dale.
When you said pleasant, that in Aussievision words means you don't like it. No, look, I do know what you mean, though, because, you know, even like, it did remind me of something you would have heard out of the Baltic states or something Eastern in the 2000s without the kind of craziness. It was just a really unusual kind of song, and I could kind of appreciate it musically. Like, they perform it well. I can hear the kind of like inspirations behind it all, and it kind of ticks some boxes, but I just feel nothing for this song. I can't get excited by it, and I love getting excited by Ukraine, and this is just leaves me a bit cold.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of that Tell Me More from those Azeri twins from a couple of years ago. And I admit I actually had to go look up the song title for that because that's how little of an impression it kind of left on me. And this kind of feels like it sits in a bit of a similar place. Are they going to have trouble qualifying? Absolutely not. This is Ukraine. They are going to be still flying through. There will be people who appreciate this, but I think it's something that requires quite a few watches to perhaps get, because it is kind of warming to me, but, you know, I've watched it 5 times since Sunday now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, there's no worries about Ukraine getting out of a semi-final, so that they will like absolutely cruise through. And I actually could see this getting a little bit of jury love. Perhaps they might appreciate it a little bit, but I don't know. It will probably get left behind by a lot of songs. But look, it's fine. We don't have any worry about Ukraine winning, which is probably, you know, a good thing overall. Even though I love the country and I like to see them do well, and I wanted them to win last year. But yeah, I think they had better options in here, in my opinion. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, a really contemporary one that stood out to me and a lot of people was Molody and MESC, which I'm told by the locals are very popular with the youngsters of Ukraine. And they came second in the televote. And I just think there was a really good presence about this band. It was a nice contemporary song while still being very powerful with a great message. And this is something that I just thought could have done much better at Eurovision generally.
Yeah, to me, this is something that was a little bit more like, for another word, radio-friendly, contemporary, commercial almost, to a point, out of the songs of Vidbir, which can be quite difficult at times, but with its own Ukrainian stamp on the whole thing. And they just look awesome. Like, I just thought they looked so, I don't want to use the word cool because I'll sound like 100 years old, but they did. Their outfits were great. They just had a real presence about them. I was like really rooting for them. I really wanted them to win. So, yeah, I was disappointed. It's not shaping how I feel about the winner, because I can appreciate the winner if they're good. I just think there were better options, and I think Molody would have been the best one for them.
Yeah, and then speaking of other contemporary options, I mean, Masha was there with No Time to Cry as well. I think her staging idea was so good until those plastic little babies came out. And I think, honestly, no, I'm not joking, Dale. She lost 20% of her points just in that exact moment those little plastic babies came out, because it was so distracting. And I didn't know, like, I'm like connecting with the song. I'm like crying, I'm weeping, I'm on my knees. And then all of a sudden I'm laughing and I'm like, oh, geez, what have we done? What have we done? And boom, it was over.
Yeah, that was just too much. Like, I think, you know, there's probably more subtle ways to do things. And they were just, it also was just the type of plastic baby they use. It was just very odd. If you haven't seen it yet, you need to go check that out, or maybe not, because it was very strange. But I enjoyed the song as well, and I think it's a bit of a shame. It was just odd, I think is the word I'd use for that.
Yeah, and I guess the last kind of standout moment of the night was Kayat winning the jury score with honour, and he seemed quite shocked, just like the rest of us. And it was quite bizarre because after listening to the jury panel of Jamala and all of them talk about how we want a really Ukrainian song with an authentic message, with someone with great vocals and this, that, they went and chose Kayat, which is really quite bizarre. Speaking of the jury, as a fun fact, they voted. They had like a 1 week SMS voting window or whatever to actually vote for jury members, which included Jamala and Katerina Pavlenko as well. So I just love how Vidbir just does their own thing and beats to their own drum.
I didn't mind the kind of weird thing about voting in the jury. So, because there's only 3 of them, so it's quite an important job. Maybe just expand it out to like 5 or so. Like, I don't know, just diversify it a little bit. But I'm going to say something. Kayat, I loved it. I thought it was great. I really enjoy it. And I don't know what it is about. Like, he's got that very unusual vocal tone where it sounds like he's got a blocked nose for about 3 months. But I really liked it. It was probably might have been my favorite above Melody. So, each to their own.
I mean, if I closed my eyes and then the bro started singing in Ukrainian instead of English, yes, I think I would have enjoyed it.
Fair enough. I'll take that point on that one. All right. Well, look, that was Ukraine. Now let's pop up to Latvia now. Now, you also were looking at the coverage of Supernova. They've always been very good about, I think they're pretty decent production level. They always trying to do a little bit of English stuff as well. What did you think about, I guess, overall quality of Supernova this year?
Well, I've watched Supernova since 2018, which has been, full of ups and downs, really. And for me, this is the strongest Supernova I've ever seen. I really, truly mean that. I think the general quality was superb from the songs. Perhaps the staging could have been a little bit juicier, but I think the actual song quality brought to the table here, it really impressed me. It sort of brought me back to that 2018 sort of, golden era that I remember. And it wouldn't be Supernova without Marcus Reba. So the fact that he was there for his 10th effort, kudos to him.
Exactly. Well, look, we ended up having our winner, and we'll talk about how that all happened in a minute, but who was the winner?
It was Teltomatus and Berman Lamy.
All right. Well, quite an interesting winner there. What did you think of this, Liv?
I bloody love it. It's kind of reminding me of like a crossover between like My Sister's Crown and Blanca Paloma. It's just this really amazing mash of vocals, and it's something that's totally unique that it's highly unlikely we'll see anything else like this in the contest. They seem like a really sweet group that had a staging idea that was really unique and clever for the constraints of the stage and what budget and stuff there was. So I think they really extracted everything they could have out of this. And I'll note that leading up into this final, they were kind of not really on anyone's radar, and they were the only ones after the semi-final that kind of skyrocketed in the odds and actually started gaining momentum. Everyone else kind of flatlined a little bit. So this definitely had momentum going into that final.
Yeah, I thought the staging concept was really creative. It just goes to show you don't need to have a lot of money to be creative. And I just love that approach. And I was really compelled, I must say, for maybe the first half of the song. I must say, after a while, it feels a bit samey, but I will say it's a national final stage, and I'm expecting perhaps they can throw a few more elements in there to keep me interested for the full 3 minutes once we get to Eurovision. But I like it. It's nice to have something like this in Eurovision. Maybe it's not my cup of tea. I never really got into the, My Sister's Crown as much. I enjoy it, but it just doesn't really sing to me as much. But I understand it and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, it was just something different in the lineup, but it's interesting because we finally got the breakdown of the scores actually today, and we found out that the whole top 3 were actually completely equaled in points, 18 points. And it turned out that ttouch got second in the televote, which was the tiebreaker, because they were the higher one as far as televote goes. So I guess do you want to talk about the other two maybe that also got 18 points?
Yeah, because I mean, I was quite shocked when it got down to the final two, and was Amelia for second place in the end, which I was really quite surprised about. I really liked her song in studio, and I thought it was okay live, but I was quite surprised to see it come second.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those occasions that, unless you kind of know the person, know their story, and a bit of a local to the national final, it's kind of not really going to do anything for you, because I don't think I saw a single Eurofan on Twitter actually talking about this, to be honest. And for me, it was not super exciting. It came third in the televote in the end, I believe.
Yeah, and that would have been the way it ended up breaking that tie, because once there was one we'll talk about in a minute that was a favourite. Once they were out, I'm like, oh, well, maybe City Zeni, who's obviously been in Eurovision before, might take it out. But then they got knocked out in third place because they did pretty badly in the televote, I think.
Yeah, they were either fourth or fifth in the end. They did manage to top the juries, though, which just kind of surprised me because, yeah, the entry's really fun, don't get me wrong, but there's not much singing going on here for a song contest. And the best parts of the song are the bits when they're lip syncing. So I'm sorry, juries, what the heck is going on? Please explain.
I totally agree. What the hell? How could this win a jury? I appreciate it was fun. I totally agree with you. How? What is the criteria? Yeah, very, very, very odd, actually. I thought out of those three, I do think the winner was the right choice. I think that was the right choice out of those three. But I was mainly surprised that the Ludwig didn't take it all out, because I thought that was actually fantastic and really very, in inverted commas, Eurovision. So I was quite surprised. He got dogged by the juries, it seems, because he won the public vote, didn't he?
He did win the public vote. I will say that there was only a couple thousand votes difference between ttouch and him. So it wasn't actually, they were pretty close in the end, but the juries absolutely dogged him in sixth. So that is quite a resounding no thank you, especially considering he actually was singing most of the time and City Zeni certainly wasn't. For me, I'm going to have to slightly disagree. I think that the presence of this song, and I just don't think he really could do it justice live, unfortunately. It just was a bit cringy. He nibbled. He wasn't eating that up. And for me, it was just, the lyrics, everything wasn't quite right, which makes me think it wasn't one of the best options for Eurovision.
I always remember thinking there was almost just one too many elements going on here. You had this kind of pop song with this massive production as well on top of it, and then you had the traditional as well. And it was almost like three different songs at times coming together. And I think the only time it worked really well, I do understand what you're saying, because it was a little bit awkward at times. I'm like, what are you doing, mate? What's going on here? But when he had put that big green planty crown thing on his head, he seemed to be slightly possessed in a good way, that he actually started to kind of get into it more. And there was more cohesive between him and the dancers, because he just looked like a kind of a lost city worker who'd wandered into the Latvian bush. And then he got kind of taken over. I was putting this inventive story on it to make the staging seem better than it was.
It definitely was a bit of a slow car crash that I couldn't look away from, to be honest. But I will say, I think there's also a red flag with an entry when the best part of your entry is a drop and your backing singers singing. Do you know what I mean? You're the front man, you're the main man. And I think most people agree that driving, folky, female vocal is the best bit of that entry.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I'll take that point. I think that's more than fair. It's a shame, because that driving part of it was actually fantastic and would work really well at Eurovision, but
total quality.
It didn't quite come together. Yeah. All right. Well, look, that was Latvia. Thank you for your coverage of Ukraine and Latvia Live. But this week, this is your week. This is Sanremo. This is Italy. Now, we're not going to talk about it too much, because no doubt we'll talk a lot about it next week. But what's your coverage going to look like this week? Who are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, we've got our usuals, a bit of tweeting. If you're interested in seeing a bit of translation and trying to actually understand what Sanremo is, feel free to jump on our socials to see what we're doing. We've got an article that's just everything you need to know about Sanremo, so go check that one out. It'll cover absolutely every single little minutia that you might need to actually be able to understand this marathon. There's a lot of really big artists coming back this year. Particularly a lot of ex-Eurovision alumni, such as Achille Lauro, obviously for San Marino, but not Italy, Francesco Capanni, Massimo Ranieri actually competed in 1971 and 1973, and also Francesca Michelin as well. So there's a lot to be excited about.
Oh, we love Sanremo here at Aussievision, and your coverage is unrivaled. So get on it. We'll share some of those stories in the show notes. I'm actually particularly looking forward to seeing Ollie. He was in it a few years ago, and his career has been rising since. I'm very intrigued to see how this young fella goes. He'll probably be a car crash now, to like Tan and I. But we'll see. We'll see. Oh, that's it, Liv. Thank you very much. We'll let you go because we know you need a lot of sleep for the week ahead and a lot of rest. And we'll catch you next week on the pod.
No worries. I'll get that Sanremo battery charged.
Okay, well, one of the most anticipated national finals these days, which is a real change from how it used to be, is Ireland's Eurosong. Bambi Thug really set the bar, and people were really watching it this year. Now, to take me through it all was Sam from the Aussievision team, who you watched all the coverage of Eurosong on the weekend, didn't you?
Yes, I absolutely love Eurosong. It's just one of my favorite national finals. Maybe not in terms of song quality, but sometimes there's so much drama, and I can understand it because it's in English. And this year was no different. So really keen to talk about all things Eurosong.
Excellent. Now, I was going to say, look, it's a very unusual setup because it's on the Late Show compared to its own kind of show. So it has that kind of slight talk show feel about the whole thing, and also maybe staging isn't as strong. So what did you think about it overall as a show?
Yeah, like I'm definitely one that I think one of the panelists on the Eurosong show said that the national final should have its standalone show, and I really agree. The sound quality for a lot of the acts I don't think was very good, and I think that's because the microphones are wired for it to be a talk show, not a performance show. And the staging, yeah, the stage is definitely very interesting. I think my colleague Carl and I were covering it, and there are a lot of interesting one-word graphics like fire or power. Looked like the intern had a really good day at the office, but not so good for the rest of us. So yes, I would like to see Eurosong taken off the Late Show and put into, even if it's just like a small arena or just a better studio would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree because, look, it's really growing and I think that it's back in Ireland. People are excited about Eurovision again. So give it a little bit more. Like, thank you, Late Show, for your service, but let's move on if you're going to be a little bit more serious about it. Right, well, let's talk about the winner, and it was Emmy with Like a Party.
I hope like I never died and that she spins around us still, and that she has a party in the air and always will. I hope that she is dancing every night among the stars. Like a is alive, like a party in the sky, like a party in the sky.
All right, well, the Norwegian singer won with her song about the Soviet space dog. Was this a surprise to you, Sam?
Yes, but it was a happy surprise. I think going in, she was predicted to do about second or third of the bookies. Bobby Arlo was the favorite going in. But yes, no, it was I'm really happy. I think this song really epitomizes what Eurovision's all about. This is a girl from Norway who participated in her own national final in 2021, singing about a Soviet dog from the 1950s for Ireland. Now, on paper, this shouldn't make any sense, but somehow in the Eurovision tradition, it all comes together. And my favorite song of the lineup, and actually my favorite Eurovision entry so far, tied with Finland, I have to say. But yes, as the Eurosong panel said, this hook is like so catchy. It's really like an earworm up with, can't get me out of my head. That sort of catchy. So, yes, I was very happy. I am a little bit nervous though because, over the weekend, as you'll discuss, Finland and Malta, they're in the same semi, and they also selected some up-tempo female songs, which arguably could be a bit more powerful sounding. But I'm hoping this sort of light, uplifting entry with the unique subject matter will hold its own.
Yeah, it'll be something that people talk about. And look, I can tell you really love it. You must be very happy when it won.
I was so happy, yes.
I think I always kind of felt if someone didn't really lift their game, she was there to take it because I knew it would be solid. I thought her vocal was okay without being amazing. But again, I think a lot of it comes down to the limitations of the staging as well. The outfits were very kind of like, felt like the Venga Boys of around 2000, but cheaper. But you know what? This will suit a big stage of Eurovision. What they could do with LEDs, maybe we could have some dancing dogs in little spacesuits. Who knows? There's so much you can do with this, right? And I think it'll really suit the big stage. So I'm not worried about it. A lot of people going, oh, this is going to be an NQ. Even though it's up against some big females in that semi, I see this getting through actually without a problem, as long as they bring the staging to it as well. And it goes to show, I think a lot of people will love it. Not really a jury song, I'll say, but you've just got to Ireland just has to worry about getting out of that semi-final. One good result, they're getting a little bit ahead of themselves. I feel like they came 6th and they're like, oh, we should be getting top 5 again. I'm like, just make the grand final again. That's all you got to worry about. Well, look, in second place, I was a little bit surprised by this in a way, but Samantha Mumba, the wonderful 2000s pop icon, came second, did very well with the juries though, won the international jury, second in the Irish jury, I believe, and then kind of dogged by the public vote to finish runner-up.
Yeah, I think that was a very big surprise, actually. Especially because this song, I would describe it as a Marmite entry. Some people absolutely love it. Shout out to our former contributor and special guest this season, Kiri, who was convinced it would win Eurovision. A little bit ahead of yourself, Kiri, but anyway. And then there's people on the other side of the coin, like me, that really didn't get it. I think it just takes way too long to build the song. And I'm honestly stunned that she did so well in the jury. I did not like her performance at all. I didn't like her leotard outfit. The zebra backing dancer outfits I didn't get. I was very confused why she was sitting down at the buffet table, looked like she was about to have a nice meal on a Saturday night. But, the song's My Way, so she was obviously doing it her way. I thought the panel was actually spot on about the song, but Dale, as you know, they had some controversial statements afterwards about them. Yeah.
Yes, there has been. Now, look, I think that's a really interesting because unlike a lot of other national finals, this happens in some of them. There was a judging panel who basically were just giving their comments. They weren't actually giving any points. They weren't part of the jury, but they were giving comments about would this be a good Eurovision entry, bloody, bloody, blah. And Bambi Thug was on that. Now, there were some very interesting comments. One, which I remember and I kind of agreed with, was it sounded like 10 demos thrown into a blender. And it kind of did, because it kind of did feel unfinished. I think there were some really good elements, actually. And I'll disagree with you because I actually didn't mind the staging. I thought it actually brought it to some kind of life. I mean, it was on live sport before it got there, but it started to be revived slightly, I think, afterwards. Because, okay, the table thing was a bit weird. I was seeing maybe Last Supper a little bit about that, but when she came out and did an Irish jig, I mean, it was the most excited I've been about an Irish jig since Bewitched C'est La Vie. I'm watching Samantha Mumba doing an Irish jig, but it didn't need to. Look, you're talking about like a party. She's doing a song about a dead dog. It's still living up on a party, and you're talking about making sense. That makes no sense.
Fine.
But look, no, coming back to it, okay, so my thoughts is I was still very surprised to see it so well in the jury. I don't think she smashed the performance. I think parts were good, parts were a bit ropey. Now, she has taken to Instagram and had a go at the judges, saying they weren't qualified to do it, they weren't professional, and that she would, what was the exact quote?
I think she would deliver a parcel of eggplants, but eggplant can be interchanged for something else.
And said that they could choke on these eggplant emojis. So she, I would say, not covered herself in glory there. Look, a lot of people are saying, yes, queen, serve it back. But I actually think it was a little bit undignified, really. I think kind of like maybe Samantha put down the wine. I think you lost and lose gracefully because ultimately the public said no. The judges were giving their comments. I think a lot of them were pretty accurate, and I thought they were pretty fair overall, because a lot of them were even saying, look, we could revamp this. There is actually something there.
Yeah, I think so. I do think, though, they probably do need to get rid of the panel. I agree with her on that, because the panel, I think, influences the voters. You know, if you say something negative, the voters will have a negative perception. And the format is very dated. This isn't Pop Idol in the 2000s. Voters are smart enough to make up their mind. Having said that, I agree with you. I think, she probably was convinced that she was going to win. So maybe she was feeling a little bit emotional, but at the end of the day, that panel I have to say, was a very modern panel. There were some former Eurosong entrants. There were radio DJs who know what are very current in the chart. So yes, Samantha, don't send me eggplant because I've roasted you. But yeah, I think she perhaps could have carried herself a bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, true. Now, look, the one interesting thing was the judging panel all unanimously almost said to go for Bobby Arlo, who they only came third in the end overall, and were particularly not treated great by the jury. And I have to kind of agree with the jury here, because I thought it was a very weak performance of what was a really impactful studio song.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think when they came out with the sword and the ninjas, I thought that was very cringe and cheesy. This is something that's been done at Eurovision and in general many times. I actually wasn't a fan of the song to start off with. I was a bit worried it's a bit too similar, because a lot of fans were calling her Bambi Thug's daughter. And I think the problem with that is, because Bambi Thug did such a great job last year, anything, it's almost impossible to beat that. So anything is not going to compare as well unless you do some miraculous staging. I mean, it's just a bit like Cyprus. They did Fuego, which was great, but then Replay the following year, I think a better studio version, but just didn't match it. And the voters, remembered Fuego and, voted down Replay a bit. So I was worried the same outcome would happen at Eurovision. If she had gone through, they would have really needed to tear up the staging and start again. But I personally wasn't a big fan of it, but I know it was the bookie's favorite going in. Yes.
Yeah, look, I liked it. It wouldn't be the kind of genre of music I'd go for, but I actually thought it had a lot of potential. I do think ultimately even though Bobby themselves took to social media as well, I don't know what was going on with these Irish competitors this year, and blamed about everything possible for their loss, when ultimately the biggest issue was their vocal delivery. Not that they sang out of tune. You could either barely hear them or lip syncing parts of that song, like pretty much like the spoken word part. Like if they were singing it, there was a lot of backing track going on there as well. So it was just a very weak performance, and so that can't win a national final. And then really, Emmy just did a very good job overall with a very fun song and streaked her way to victory.
And she's a nice gal. Everyone liked her. All the Eurosong contestants liked her. So a good person won, I think, with a great song. Very important.
Yes, exactly. Well, look, there's only 6 in it, and look, the rest of it was a kind of an interesting bunch. But I think we'll leave it there to talk about Ireland, and we can talk lots about Emmy for the next couple of months. Sam, I know you're going to be very excited.
So excited.
I mean, the fact that you loved Kayleen, We Will Rave last year was one of your favorites. It's no surprise to see that you're loving Emmy here.
I'm a basic boy, Dale. That's what it is,
Oh, look, I feel you. Maybe I'm not that basic, though. It makes me feel a bit better about myself. Well, look, Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you about Ireland and the drama that unfolded there. And we'll see you for whatever next national final we get to talk about, probably Germany.
Yes, thank you, Dale. See you soon.
All right, well, we're talking about this for the 3rd week in a row, but for good reason this time, because we actually had a result out of Malta. But before we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit about the show. And of course, we're going to talk to Craig, our resident Maltese expert. Craig, welcome to the show again. What did you think of MESC, the actual show itself? The production seemed to be pretty good this year.
G'day, Dale. Yeah, I mean, MESC is always the highlight of my year, as you can imagine. But having watched it for a few years now, this was, honestly, hats off to TVM. It was such a good show this year. MESC, I think, has perhaps tended to be the butt of jokes a little bit for the last couple of years. It's down there with the Moldovas. But you know what? I actually think this I'm going to say this was better than Norway. This is better than what Iceland looks like it's going to serve up. It's better than Denmark. They had some good songs in there. The production was genuinely impressive. It looked like they had half the bloody country sitting there in the audience. And then even at the end, the results sequence, that was the most tense I felt in any sort of national final this year. I was like on the edge of my seat. And even though I'd been sitting there for the last 4 hours in a row. So hats off TVM. I really, really hope this bodes well for future years and that MESC is about to experience a bit of a resurgence. But I was thoroughly, thoroughly impressed.
As was I. Like, I kind of been making a little bit of fun about everything to do with MESC this season. And then when we actually ranked, I was like, I actually like a lot of these songs. And I actually loved quite a few of them. And again, the production quality was fantastic. It looked really good. Now, it went multiple hours too long, far too many interlacks. But look, we're not going to make this segment go too long, so we're not even going to go there because we're going to go we're going to dive straight in.
Are you sure, Dale? Are you sure you don't want to talk about Maltese taxes? Because did you know that you and Mike would actually qualify for a deduction under the changes to the 2025 Maltese tax law?
Oh, no, I'm too busy booking my cruise, Hamilton Cruises, actually. But anyway, let's talk about the winner. It was Miriana Conte with Can't.
Why should we let other people decide what we could be having the time of our lives? Let down your walls, come and dance to my vibe. I do it all the time, yeah, I do it all the time. Serving cunt. Do re mi fa so serving cunt.
Craig, this was the result we dared to dream about, and it happened. What an amazing morning and what an amazing result.
Dale. I mean, I had no idea how they were going to stage this, but the moment I saw that Julie Andrews costume and the kids in sailor suits and then her being like cunty Sound of Music, I had tears streaming down my face. I was weeping, a grown man weeping. Miriana Conte brought me to tears. And quite frankly, I mean, this was the best thing we've seen on National Finals season. I won't hear anything else. I was hedging my bets last week. You know, I was saying, oh, maybe they shouldn't pick it. But this was phenomenal. And I think people will make fun of it as being sort of like, oh, it's a bit cheap, it's a bit tacky. Eurovision isn't just a song contest, much as we say it is. It is a televisual 3-minute experience contest. And this was, I'm sorry, one of the single best 3 minutes that I've seen this year. So hats off to you. I'm taking my hat off to everyone this morning. But Miriana Conte, nobody deserves it more than you.
She was fabulous. And what I loved about her, she owned the stage. She really did. She was confident. She loved it. She literally did. She served Can't. She really did. And I love the play on the Sound of Music. I just think the levels involved with this was just when you I didn't notice it the first time because I was watching the TVM stream and it was so bad I couldn't make out much other than the bouncing balls, which I'll get to. And then when I watched it back in the clarity, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. This is amazing. But when she came, and number one, the reveal to start with, brilliant, perfect. And then when it came to the bouncing balls, like I screamed, like
Chanel could never.
Chanel would never, but that's regardless. True. And I always loved the fact that the dancer has to kind of like get hers pushed to her, and it's slightly clunky, but it's brilliant. It just, as you said, wonderful, wonderful TV.
I just want to say, like, yes, that bit's a bit awkward, but I was thinking about it later. Poor Miriana Conte is staring into a camera, and then she has to do effectively the equivalent of a trust fall onto an exercise ball. Like, she can't look down. She just has to plant her ass on it and then bounce up and down. And, like, that's terrifying. So, you know what? Does it look a little bit awkward? Do I hope they work on it? Yeah. But also, like, you can't really blame her.
I hadn't really thought of that, but that makes a lot of sense. Now, look, it'd be remiss for us not to talk about Malta with the amount of quality songs we had in there without a couple of the other ones, because I think they had a couple that could have gone to Eurovision and done well, including second place, which was Christy Spiteri with Heaven Sent, won the jury, did well on the public vote. Unlucky not to go any other year. I think she would have won. And I actually loved this song.
I thought it was great. I love it as well. I I have nothing against Christy Spiteri. I think she did a great job. I think the performance was good. I think she sang well. I think the song is fun. My perspective on this the whole way along was that I've been in the trenches with these Maltese pop girls before, and what happens is they win, and everyone goes, wow, that's a really good choice. I think Malta might actually do okay this week. And by next week, everyone has forgotten her. They've all put her like 22nd in their rankings, and by the time we roll around to the semi-finals, Malta's a hopeless case. So I like this. I like Christy Spiteri. I hope to see her again in the future, but this was... I think Malta made the right choice this year, and I'm much happier to see them sending Kant than I think I would have been to see them sending Evanson.
Yeah, I think they would have beaten a few home in the semi, but wouldn't have probably qualified with this. So I do agree with you. I definitely had that little popra element to add on to it, and the hilarious increase of beats per minute at the end, where she looks like she literally is in fast forward, including her movements, which I'm just obsessed with that. That's just fantastic.
It's amazing.
But I loved it. It's great, but a good second place.
Correct.
Actually, the better one, not a better one, but another one that probably could have got out of the semi-finals, I think, was probably third place. Which who were they, Craig? Because I'm not pronouncing it.
Oh, that's Cantera. And what's their song called now? No, it's La La Ratata KK La La Ratata Boom, which I've had enough practice now that I can say. But this really grew on me. I always thought it was perhaps the best choice in this lineup because it has that clear sort of televote potential and clear market within the Eurovision setting. But by the end of the week, I was actually having a roll, and I thought this was so fun. They look like they're having a great time. The traditional instruments are great, and like it just felt like a good crowd pleaser. Like this was such a fun time. I think it would have done like. I think Kant might actually have a higher ceiling if she makes it to the show with the word intact. But I think Cantera on the night would have been the safest pick, ironically, if Malta had gone with it.
Yeah, I do think it had some public vote peel there for sure. I do think people love this. They would have eaten it up in a semi-final. I think it would have been a really good chance to get out. Weirdly, for something like this, this is normally my bag. I normally love this. Check out Moldova with some traditional instrument, and I'm just already bought in, and I'm voting for it. But I don't know. I liked it. I just never warmed to it. I just found it, and it wasn't just because of Khan. Like I felt it was almost even too twee for like this kind of traditional thing, and I felt them slightly irritating and annoying. But that was just me. I still saw the potential of a vote winner, even though I didn't particularly warm to it.
But still, it was in Maltese language. It had the right elements, and I think we'll probably end up seeing them at Eurovision one of these years anyway.
I think something like that would be good, and it'd be nice to see Maltese language in there as well. But we still have Maltese language. It's just one word, and it's one word we've been enjoying. And look, I won't lie, every single time the jury member said can't, I did giggle like a schoolgirl.
Can we talk about how they can't made it second in the jury? I was like, it's not a bad song, but I was shocked to see them putting it that high.
But I mean, it still had a contemporary kind of feel, and she sang it pretty well. Like it wasn't like it was. I called it an average pop song at the start of our few weeks of doing this, and I actually take that back. I think there actually is something there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this is a bad song at all, and I think it's got. Like, you can call it a gimmick, but again, I think it's the thing that sort of shapes this whole package. And again, if you go back to this, Eurovision's not just a song contest, it's a televised 3-minute audio-visual performance contest. This was the best televised audio-visual 3-minute performance.
Indeed. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure going through this MESC journey with you, Craig, and I'm also so glad that our journey of cunt is not over yet. We've got months more to keep talking about this all the way to Basel, so I'm sure we'll have you back on the pod at some point to talk about this wonderful, wonderful entry.
I hope so too. Just before we go, can I shout out one other very special person?
Of course.
Well, you'll note it's actually a very special occasion, Dale, because I noticed that while looking through some of the artists this year, Jessica Muscat, who you may remember as San Marino's Eurovision representative from 2018, this was her 14th MESC appearance and her 15th national final appearance overall. She's never finished at MESC higher than 7th place, which is Marcus Rita Eat Your Heart Out, but she managed to get a new PB this year at MESC. She got 5th place as part of JVF, and maybe in another 10 years, we might see her get to represent her home country. So thanks, Jessica.
Look, her progression is remarkable.
It's truly, truly something to be studied.
Well, I'm very glad you gave her 15 seconds of fame worth it, because that was such a remarkable stat to come out. Like, we all talked about Marcus Reva, and I think we forget about that because she went to Eurovision. But if you can't win your national final after 14 attempts, and not only that you got a new PB of 5th.
Not even close.
I don't know. And it's Malta too. It's not like it's Melody Festival and people. Like,
she even she had 2 songs in one of the years, and both of them did not qualify. We love you, Jessica. Please keep coming back.
She's our new favourite. Jessica for 2026. Please, make it happen. All right, Craig, thank you so much again for your Maltese coverage, and we will no doubt speak to you soon.
Thanks, Dale.
Okay, it's that point of the show where we drag Mike onto the microphone to get his verdict on another song. Welcome back, Mike, as usual.
Thank you very much.
Right, well, this week we've got an interesting one. So, Armenia we're talking about, and they kind of dropped their artists really late and their songs really late, and we discovered that Athena Manoukian is competing, and we remember Athena, right?
Very much so. I was a big fan of her 2020 sort of offering. What was it called again? Chains on You.
Chains on You,
yeah.
not Chainsaw Chains.
Chainsaw You. Yeah, Chains on You. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the live performance in the national final, and I was looking forward to what she could produce because I thought she slayed.
Well, talking about slaying, what she has served up in a song that we're going to have a little listen to now is Athena Manoukian with Da Queen Nation.
And I give you my promise, but you know how to dream. They'll be calling me a queen. Diamonds shining on me, and I'm back to slay. So scream, put some dedication, motivation, no negotiation. Da Queen Nation, I'm your guarantee, your embassy. You should turn it into beast mode. Can't you see I'm not afraid? Can't you see I'm not afraid of losing all my chances?
Well, from the picture of the promos in her in that giant red dress, I kind of expected something maybe a little bit like this. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, look, probably not out of the wheelhouse of Chains on You, so it probably does sound like her other stuff, which I quite enjoy. Ultimately, I think it's a great little vocal opening that captured me. We got the rappy sort of sing talk stuff and the whole slay, I'm a queen, another queen. We've got one from Malta, we've got one now. It's something pleasing about this, I have to say. There is something I quite enjoy about it.
What is it that you enjoy about it?
I think it's probably, look, I've listened to the studio and let's pick that apart a little bit. It does sound a little disjointed. I do feel like they're trying to cram a lot in, but having seen her prior, and it's probably not good to judge her on her 2020 performances, etc., but we know she's a good performer. I am confident that she is going to come out with a concept and perform the heck out of this. And then once you do that and she's giving you the visuals, then you're probably not caught up on perhaps so much of the quality of the song.
Yeah, because I kind of like, to me, the song, and actually Craig mentioned this to me, and once I heard it, I couldn't unhear it. It's a little drag racy.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
Like, when they have to put the song together for the finale, like the spoken word bit, the slay, it feels a little bit drag race Armenia.
Yeah, a little. I will not disagree with that. And what kind of frustrated me a little hearing it in the studio was I kind of felt the song got going and you'd get a bit of a flow and then they'd throw in something that jarred it all up again. And I mean, you want peaks and troughs, but you don't want to be hitting brick walls at the same time, But as I say, perhaps with that performance, she gels it all together and we get something that's a bit more cohesive. I'm also going to say I think they're toying around with those Eastern elements, with the instrumentation, etc. in the background. Lean into that. That's going to make it, exotic and sound great to the international audience. So, again, elements here that are very, very good. let's hope the whole visual performance just melds it all together.
I think that's what I need from this, because I see the potential. And, you know, she really went for the kind of live performance in 2020. So
she was terrific.
She was, you know, for like the Armenian stage for the national final is always a little bit dinky, isn't it? It's cute. I like the Armenian national final, but it's not bringing UMK style staging.
And when you looked at, I mean, she did revamp her song from the national final to what we were going to see in Rotterdam. And it went up levels, you know. So, and I still enjoyed her performance in the national final. She's gorgeous. She can sing, and like I've got high hopes for the live here. So fingers crossed she doesn't let me down.
Yeah, and look, I've got high hopes because I just love to see an artist from 2020 get a chance to go on stage.
Absolutely,
like that's what would make me really happy about this. And I do think it has potential, and I do agree. Like, I think they'll do what they need to do to win a national final, and if they do, then go full blown on the Eastern elements.
Yeah,
like dial them up 200%.
Get her out there, get her writhing, have those dances. It's kind of the songs ready made for it. So yeah, if they've got the right concept, I have no doubt she'll do the execution.
Now here's a point. She's in the second semi-final. We have Ireland with Emmy. We have Malta with Can't. We have Finland with Erika Vikman. So she's got three kind of girl bops in their own very different ways. To me, this is probably the weakest of the four.
Oh gosh!
But we don't know what the live performance. To me, it's going to have to really be very good live if it gets to go to Eurovision to kind of compete against them. She might get swallowed up.
Yeah, look, if I was going to judge the four studios, which one am I walking away kind of whistling or you know is stuck in my head? I'd probably put the other three ahead, but having seen the lives from Ireland and the live from Malta. Could be better, whereas I think, you know, if she can deliver vocally, she's got the aesthetic, we could see her jumping up, but probably ahead of a couple of there.
Oh, well, there you go. No, I'm very intrigued. Now, I won't be watching it live because it's at Monday 2 a.m. here in Australia.
Oh, that's not happening.
No, there'll be no coverage from any of the Australian-based Aussie team on that one. I'm sorry. We do everything, but that is a step too far. All right. Well, look, thanks, Mike, for talking us through a little Armenia. Now, in the Patreon episode, we are talking about Norway and Lithuania.
We are. A bit of a mixed bag out of those ones as well, to be honest.
And you could really tell the Norwegian songs, couldn't you?
You didn't even need to tell me. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, that's from Norway.
Well, you know where to sign up. The link will be in the show notes. And other than that, we will see you next week.
Have a good one.
Catch ya.